Well, good morning, welcome to Light Dave. Back down the boat. As you can see, it's a nippy one. We've got a bit of frost. It was -4 when I come out this morning. It's up to about -2 now, but I've got the heater on in there. I'm going to let that warm up for a little while. Go and get myself a cup of coffee and I'll come back and see what it's like. It's not too cold for sanding, but I'll have to wait for it to warm up before I can do any sort of glass work. Well, welcome back to Life of Dave. We're back down the boat, see what we can get done today. Probably not going to be a great deal of glass work and stuff going on. It's -4 this morning, probably about -3, -2 now, something like that. It is warming up a bit. I have got the heater on. A little fan heater there, just blowing a little bit of warmth into the cabin here to try and warm it up a wee bit. But, you know, it's still a chilly day, so I've got to see what we can do. I've got a bit of sanding to do. And hopefully, if we can, if it's warm enough, a little bit of glassing. Right, so let's just have a quick look at what we done last time. Put a little bit in there to fill this edge here. Try and pack that out a wee bit into that corner. A little bit down the bottom there, so I've got to sand that. This bit here, I couldn't get the stick in, so I glassed over the edge. I'm going to sand that to shape of the door so we can trim that down. And then filler behind it, so I'll pack that out with a little bit of filler. I might be able to, once I get some filler on there, get a little bit of glass to stick to it. The possibility, you know, so that it's capped off. But as far as trying to pack the glass into there goes, onto that surface end on, it just wasn't working. Right, so this bit here has come out nice now. That's all set up solid, no more sticky patches there. And the bit here has worked nicely, that fillet that we put in there. So we've radiused around that end there. So that needs to be trimmed because it's overshot the inside a bit there. A little bit on the outside to sand off. This bit here again, nice and dry, it's all set up nicely now. That should got to be sanded to blend that into that top bit of glass work there. So that should go all right. And we've got this bit here. What happened? I just ripped that out. So that didn't stick, and it unrolled itself and dropped down there and set in the bottom. Luckily it's a bit dusty in there and it didn't set too much. There's a little bit of resin excess in there, but not too bad. So it did set up, however, not where it was supposed to. It's kind of gone wrong. So, you know, I've got no fill on this section here. It didn't work. So that's a bit of a bummer. I've got nothing to. Still got to sand it because I've got all this resin overrun now. But I've got no extra filler there. Oh, my tripod's just broke. Don't know that lick. And I need to get on and get it done. I want this side done and finished so I can get on with the other side, because that's going to take me just as long to sort out as this side did, unfortunately. And we're still doing this side. You know, it's taken months of work to get to this stage, and I'm still going. I didn't envisage it taking quite this long, but it is getting there. It's probably taken this long because I keep talking. Right, anyway, yeah, filming does slow me down a wee bit, that's for sure. So trying to film what I'm doing and get that onto camera, you know, does slow down how long it takes to do things, for sure. But, you know, yeah, it's part of the process, you know. Hopefully what I'm doing will inspire someone else to do a little bit themselves, or teach them how to do stuff, or show that you can do it if you want to. You know, if you want to learn, you can do it as well. Yeah, it's good fun at times, and at other times you're pulling your hair out, and you know, I mean, like how long this takes, for instance. You know, and every time I stick something on like that, and I've got to let it set up and then sand it before I can do anything else. I can't get laminating resin. Where I get my resin from, they don't sell laminating resin, which is a real bummer, because if that was laminating resin, I could use, you know, I could put a layer on, come down next time, you know, I haven't got to sand it. That's hours of sanding I could save. I could just stick the next layer on and build it up and fair over it, and, you know, or gel coat over it. It would be brilliant. And if this was done in laminating resin, I could have come in, put another layer over the top of glass, you know, then I could have faired it all, let that all go off, sanded it all down, and then gel coated it. Instead of having to put it on, sand it down, put something on, sand it down, put something on, sand it down, it just goes on forever. But anyway, you know, for your own projects, you know, it'll give you an idea of just how long things take. You know, if you thinking, oh yeah, I'll get a boat and yeah, I'll do this a little bit of work and you know, we'll have that in the water and we'll get out. Yeah, it'll be great. Well, yeah, that's the fault I had. But when I bought this boat, you know, it was like, oh yeah, it just needs a bit of wiring. You'll be out this year. Yeah, it's a little bit more than that. Just a wee bit more than that. I've had to rebuild all the lockers. Well, I mean, it depends what you want. I mean, I could have just wired it up and used it. It was an old floating battle wagon, you know, but I've redone all of that. That literally took that right out. The outside, the inside, the lot. Ripped all that out. It was rubbish. Rebuilt all that. Rebuilt all this locker. Redone all this edge. I've had to retrim all this. That basically had a bit of wood in there, which is now my mixing board. That sheet of wood that I'm using for mixing my filler on was the original hatch for this. I bought a nice new hatch to go in there. Yeah, this had been cut and riveted back together. It was all janky and wobbly and horrible, so I've had to refix all that, reinforce it, glass it up. That's now strong as you like. Whoops. That's solid. You know, make a new hatch for the top, sort out the rear of the helm. You know, that's all had to be done. I've had to make a hatch for that. Covered all this in because I don't want to see all the wiring and everything that was on the back of there. It just looked a flaming mess. I've still got to rewire it. That's me port and starboard lights. I've snipped them off because I got fed up with working around the wires, so I'm just going to rewire them. But I've got to make some sort of cover to go over there because I don't want to see the wires. So the wires have got to run down there. I'm going to have to drill a hole through there and pop the wires into there. But I don't want to see the wiring, so that's all got to go. Same that side, I've got to run the wiring round and back over the top. I've got a cover to go over there, but yeah, the wire's got to be hidden, so it's either got to go up or back. But either way, yeah, I don't want to see it. I've got my little channel over the top here, so I can pass the wiring through. So I made that little handle to hide all that, and I'll probably just put a screw in to hold that in place so it can't fall out. It's not something that's going to be taken in and out all the time. It's only going to be taken out if I've got to do some work on the boat that involves getting to the wires, you know. So I've just made it so it's removable just in case, you know. And I've got a cover to go up the top of there, which rather than glass in place, I'm going to screw in place so that I can remove it again for wiring and stuff, bits and pieces. Yeah, so we're getting there. Lots to do. Lots that I've done. You know, I've replaced the front bulkhead. That was rotten, so I cut all that out, put a new one in, cut it all to size, stuck it all in with bonding paste and then glassed round it inside and outside. So it's glassed both sides. Faired it in so it all looks nice and smooth. I don't want it all janky, wobbly, bobbly, horrible looking surfaces. I want it nice and smooth and clean lines, you know. Hence me cupboards. I'm trying to make me lockers look like they belong there, you know, not look too out of place. So yeah, I think it'll look alright. We're getting there, but it's a lot of work, and talking a lot of work, I need to crack on. So bye for now. I'll catch you all soon. Let's get sanding. I'm using a Sonny Crafter. It's a Works F30 Sonny Crafter. It's got the quick change blades, so you can pop that out. You don't have to strip it all right down. Oscillating cutter, fantastic little tool for when you've got to nib stuff off. Just running cheap blades, you can get better blades, obviously last longer, but when I'm cutting through fiberglass, I mean, these don't last long at all, but they do the job. But I can buy quite a lot of them reasonably cheap, so it sort of makes sense to just blast through them and just use what I need. If I was doing this professionally as a job, you know, maybe the dearer blades. I have got some of the dearer blades that I use for some things. You know, tungsten carbide tips and all the rest of it. They do last a lot longer, so sometimes, you know, it sort of pays to buy the dearer ones. But if I'm just going through rough glass, then, you know, thin stuff, then these are good enough. Just got to trim off the excess that's sticking out the sides and the insides. Then I'm going to sand it to shape.
That's it. So that's all the big bits that are sticking out taken care of, so there's nothing to catch my hands on and all the rest of it. Now you can put this quite flat on there and just run around on there, but I'm going to hit this with a sander because I don't want to chew into this at all with a blade. That'll ruin me finish on the front and it'll just be more work to filler and sort out. So if I hit that with a sander, that will give me a lot smoother finish. This glass on edge like that does, however, rip the paper to pieces, so you go through the paper really quick. Hence I wanted to trim it off first. Now I'm still left with a bit there to sand now, but not as much. Just melt away at the edge there as you hit it with a sander. Doesn't take a lot of sanding to feather it out. See, that bit's pretty much gone flat already. That's the beauty of not having that hard edge to sand. Not bad. Right, need to run me paper around the insides of these to smooth them off. See how the door fits. Right, let's flatten that off. Got rid of all those runs. Right, so that's pretty much all the sanding done by doing the locker hatches now. I'll try and get that resin out of there. That's it, I was hoping on that. Yeah, I'll just break it out. Because this is smooth, it wasn't keyed and prepped to take glass into. And the resin stuck to it but hasn't cured to it properly, so I was banking on that, able to snap it off. Right, so let's have a look at this. See how we're looking. So that's much better. Still got a hole down here. I think, looking at that, I think that's as much fault on the hatch cover than the hole. I was thinking maybe it'll be easier to fill the hatch up a wee bit there and re-sand that to shape. I think the curve on the actual boat there looks okay. Right, now I think the radius on this looks alright. I think we've got a sort of issue there. The radius on the hatch was eaten away there. I think I need to build that up. As far as the gap goes there, it's not too bad. I'm going to shove left a wee bit. So it's a little bit out at the top there, but that is literally not a lot. A little bit of filler in there. That glass has filled that gap nicely. I think we're left to a bit of filler in now. This bit here definitely needs some build up. There's a huge hole there. I don't know how I missed that before. So I need to build this up from there to there, filling this edge to bring that out to there. Right, this side doesn't look too bad. It is a little bit large. Well, like I say, I tried putting a bit of glass in there, it didn't stick and it all fell out. That would have been it really, I think that would have done that. So I might get a bit of glass and try and redo that corner. The other option is like I've done here, glassing the outside and fillering up to it. But this still isn't going to work, because now what I've got is I've got a bit of glass that's proud of this surface. In order to do that, I'm going to have to grind this down to build up the glass in layers. Otherwise, what I've got here is a bit of glass that I'm going to end up having to flat off to this and make it all smooth. I'm going to have to flat that right back until it breaks out. You know, it's going to snap it away. So the only thing I can do is use that as something to put the filler against at the moment to build the edge. And then pretty much grind it right off, leaving just a bit of filler in there. Yeah, not really what I wanted. But I mean, if I build up the fillet to shape, then I can scoop into it from the outside and put a bit of glass in it and then level it. Yeah, it's all very blooming awkward, I'll tell you. Nothing simple, is it? Everywhere I put it's different. Right, so let's have a look and see how this fits. So I've got a bit of work to do on the hatches still, and all of which has just made me realise I need to be more careful cutting them out. A bit of glass there. Right, now I need to see where these sit. So I need to sand this out to square that up. So I can get this corner in. Yeah. Right, this end. So this end. That to there. I see roughly where I've got to sand that to. I don't know if I can get to. If I can run a line around there. That will show me where I've got to take it back to. See if that works. That top bit, that's awkward. Ain't going to stick properly, is it? I've sanded through half of it. That bit there's flapping, basically breaking out. It's too thin. I've sanded it back, I've made it too thin, but it doesn't matter. It's not a big problem at the moment. Like I say, I'm pretty much going to, I think, remove the glass afterwards. It's only really to give me an edge to fill to. Wrong hatch. Get the right one, Dave, or make it fit the wrong hatch. That won't be good, will it? That still wants more there. So a little bit more there to there. Trying to do this to see what's going on. I've still got to get the other side in yet, so it might go left a wee bit to work out where it's going to sit so that clears. Get the left hand side to fit. That needs some sanding. Right, let's take out the left side a wee bit. See if we can get it fitting better this side, and then I'm going to see if I need to adjust it more. I'm trying to get this to stand square because it's a little bit wonky at the moment. It's got to sit square so that the hatch sits in there nicely. And as usual, when I do most stuff, visual. Most of what I do is visual. As long as it looks alright visually, you know, not worried about it being perfectly perpendicular to the part in question, you know. Right, so that ain't bad. So a little bit tight in the middle there, bear in mind this has all got to be gel coated, so I do need a little gap around it. But that ain't bad. That's really closed that gap up nicely, except for that big hole at the top. But as we've worked out, getting glass to stick in that hole is no easy task. So this side fits quite tight now. It's quite a nice line there, but that's too tight. You can see it's actually touching. Good radius, but it's too tight. Because I'm not going to be able to paint that. The paint's going to take up a lot of this gap. I don't want it so tight that it, you know, it's going to keep sticking every 2 seconds. I mean, that is a real good tight fit. So let's take a little bit more off of there and a little bit more off the other side. Very thin this glass now, so it's, you know, it'll sort of shave down pretty quickly. These hinges are just screwed on with one screw at the moment. They will be bolted. I've bought some nuts and bolts to go in these. That looks better. It is just sort of like a rough line up and guide as to how we're looking. That ain't bad. Well, once I get it perfected on here, I can always shave a little more off the door if need be. Will be easier to sand than the hull of the boat, you know. That don't look bad at all. I'm quite pleased with that. A little bit tight on this left hand side, but that's one hatch almost ready to go really. That's pretty darn good. Get a little gap this side if I shove it this way, so I need a little bit off of this side, just in the centre there. Not a lot at all, that's nearly there. Like that. So little adjustments at a time is all I'm going for now. So what I'm looking for is, once these are screwed in, I want this to sit fairly flat. I've still got that little wobble there. That could just be the, I think if I tighten that up, that's not too bad. That's acceptable. I don't want to change the radius on the boat part too much, because that looks pretty good. It looks like the hatch cones out slightly. So I'm going to take a little bit off of there, rounding that slightly. So I do need a little gap around it. Now if it's too tight, like I say, once I paint it, it's going to jam up and I won't be able to open the door, and it will just rip the wear through the paint off with the gel coat as I open and close it. So it does need to be a nice gap all the way around, and even reveal all the way around it. Just a bit of fine tuning now, it'll make life easier. Get that gap at the bottom, you know, I don't want it tight on the bottom, so that I've got a nice gap at top and bottom, left and right. Right, that side's looking brilliant now. I like that. This side I've got to fill that little gap there. I still think I want a tiny little bit more off there. But that ain't bad. Getting there, nearly done. Shaving this down by hand. No power tools, I don't want to go too far and have to rebuild it all, build it up more. Bend these hinges back to be able to get it in. They fight against you. That is the only thing. That's better. So now I've got a gap there. That It's pretty darn good to me. I think if I fix that in there, I'll be happy with that. And if that don't quite sit as tight as I like it, I think it will. If I push that hinge in tight, it's very minimal. It's better this side than that, but could be a slight twist in the glass, who knows. It could just be because it's not flat on the back. This side's a little bit thinner than that. If I take a little bit off the back there, flatten it out, that'll probably sort that. There we go. I'm not straight this edge either, although that's not hitting against anything, so that won't make a difference. It's only this top, but we're not the same thickness. The way I constructed this, you know, it lent to itself. When I cut this out, it's not the same thickness all over, so it's never going to be perfect. It's a boat, it's a locker, it's not like the QE2, is it? You know, it is what it is. It's the boat that Dave made. It's never going to be perfect. Yeah, so a little bit of filler in there. Build up a little bit this side. Let that set up. I might be able to grind into this and put a bit of glass in a bit lower down. Sorry, this side. This is sitting proud. Or I could pack that out. You know, we'll see and leave that there. It is glassed over, but I have just sanded that and I've gone really thin on this top edge. So there's not a lot of thickness there. What I don't want is that peeling. You know, if you was to get behind that, I might be able to peel that off because I've sanded it so thin. So, you know, things to be aware of. All I want to do is get it done and put together and not have to redo it again next year. You know, if that's all blown apart, it does feel like it's on there quite solid. I think I've pulled off the only bit where I sanded the edge there a bit thin. I think I've pulled that bit off now. So, right, that's done. But we've now got a nice reveal. There's a little bit of couple of grips there.